Hello there. Recently I've been thinking to myself that so many games released in this year and in a previous one were somewhat average, and I maybe have lost interest in gaming. After all, a game like Astrobot won a Game of the Year, so there's definitely something true in that statement. But after KCD 2 and a game that we'll be covering today, I realized the problem isn't in me, the problem is in the industry. This absolute masterpiece made by a small studio, Sandful Interactive, reaches out to the entire gaming community and is a serious contender for a Game of the Year. Welcome to Clair Obscur Expedition 33 Credible Review. I originally didn't plan to play or to make a review for this game, as I barely heard any news towards it. Additionally, the game is made by a group of 30 developers who at some point in their life worked at Ubisoft. And who would have thought they would come up with something so sublime and so beautiful as this? This game does everything right, it exceeds in every possible category I usually tend to cover in my videos, and it absolutely deserves recognition for a job well done. So, now let's get down to the categories, shall we? The story. We begin this marvelous adventure as Gustav, a citizen of Lumiere who's part of the title Expedition 33. We are quickly accompanied by Maël, the orphan that grew up under Gustav's wings. It's worth noting that from the very beginning of this story, in like the first 20 minutes, we are graced with rather shocking plot twist. I haven't watched the trailer before playing the game, so my jaw was down for like a good minute or two. The amount of plot twists in this game is comparable to the amount of younglings slain by Anakin Skywalker at the Jedi Temple. Its story oftentimes doesn't make sense, and it remains quite mysterious, but that's a good sign. It reveals all the mysteries rather far into the game. One of the antagonists literally tells you it won't make sense to you now, but it will make sense later.
This won't make sense to you now.
We get awesomely written characters with lots of personality and vigor. The voice actors put a lot of effort and passion into their work, which makes the whole experience quite believable, very memorable and visually pleasant. The Unreal Engine 5 allowed the developers to portray a vast amount of emotions, which made the dialogues even more breathtaking and vivid. And if I were to summarize this story with one term, I think the most accurate would be an emotional roller coaster. From deep sorrow to an absolute bliss, surprise after surprise, brutal Game of Thrones kind of surprise if you get my meaning. The exhilarating turn-based combat and epic boss fights, and all of this is supplemented by something I will remember this game for many years to come, the soundtrack.
That's better.
Forward.
Words cannot describe how mesmerizing, beautiful and climatic the music is in this pure piece of diamond. The story and the soundtrack coexist in perfect harmony. Unlike the gangsta music for Yasuke during a ceremony. Needless to say, if you want to hear all songs, you need to sacrifice 8 hours of your life. For a game that lasts for about 30 hours, it's quite an impressive feat. And coming up next, we have graphics/performance category. It took about 6 years to make this game, and along the way came Unreal Engine 5, which certainly helped the entire studio to elevate their precious gem to its absolute peak in terms of visuals. As mentioned in the previous segment, the faces remain quite believable and portray a vast amount of emotions. The graphical design overall can bring out the vibes of Final Fantasy. The animations during combat look incredible and remain satisfying to use. As Lune, I was often encouraged to discover all her builds featuring the elements of fire, earth, lightning and so on. Glaring at the landscapes can take a decent amount of time out of your gameplay, so is loading the game back in. In 30 hours of my gameplay I experienced over 5 fatal crashes. Luckily the game's autosave feature works rather frequently, so it wasn't as frustrating as in other games. The game was recorded on a setup with RTX 4070, 2K resolution and DLSS technology. The requirements are pretty demanding, but nothing extraordinary like a recent Indiana Jones for example. In terms of graphics, I really can't say anything bad, it's just a cherry on top of an already amazing masterpiece. And the last category for today, gameplay/mechanics. Clair Obscur is a turn-based RPG, so naturally any enemy we encounter during an exploration is transferred to a battlefield in which we can use various amount of mechanics. There are skills requiring you to use your wits, dexterity and reflex such as parry, dodge and jump, used at the correct moment. There's also quick time events that can end up very punishing if you fail them for any reason. I can also mention shield stacks, gradient parry, gradient attacks, aim and fire, burn dealing damage every turn, stances, ranks. Don't forget the items you can also use to your advantage such as refillable, revival and heal potions. There are so many mechanics offered to you without feeling overwhelmed because you gradually get them throughout your story at a very good pace. The exploration can be done with any character that you can swap at any time, but I'm willing to bet that most of you who have already finished the game chose Lune for her levitating capabilities. Am I right? And if you stray a bit from the main storyline, you can end up in a cameo of only Up and Alt F4. It came up as a surprise, but a welcome one. And also hilarious if you count those fellas dancing at the top. I'm speechless. I'm just left speechless. Okay, back to the point. The map is quite enormous and there are some areas inaccessible at the early stage of the game, but without spoiling the story, there is a certain way that you can get to swim or even fly this gigantic map, and as a result making the 100% Finnish fanatics extremely satisfied. Each character has his own set of weapons and skills, followed by a set of passive skills called Lumina. As a result, you can find dozens of builds that can fit your playstyle. You can build Lune as a healer or a pyromancer, or combine all the elements together. You can make Mael a tank or a DPS. The possibilities and the variety of skills is amazing. The only limit is the amount of skills during a fight. You need to choose wisely which skills you want to add up to the table. There's also a problem of neglecting other characters. There's 5 characters to unlock but only 3 to choose from for a main team. As a result, some of the characters may be neglected and your backup team will become weaker than the rest. Ooh, I almost forgot. Actually, you can also play all by yourself with any character because there are certain luminas that give you immense power when fighting alone. But trust me, that 3 people is enough to overpower your opponents. I made such good builds for my characters that I only needed 1 round to dominate and finish the entire fight at the start. It's worth adding I played on a medium difficulty and some of the elites gave me quite a headache. There are certain areas that are accessible at the start but not advised to approach just yet. If you get one shot by an elite, just leave and come back later, no need to get frustrated. The reason I'm telling you that is that you can come back and return to any area you've already discovered on your journey, either to collect luminas, materials or expedition journals. There's also a companion integration and dialogue/romance center, triggered by setting up a camp while traversing the map. Doesn't that ring a bell? Yep, a similar mechanic was found in Baldur's Gate 3. If you're taking inspirations, take them from the best. And it turned out to be a good decision. Some encounters were hilarious, some were melancholic. Either way, it's a good fun. The characters' visuals are also customizable to some extent. You only have 2 options, but those 2 options are outfit and hair, which is like 90% of how our protagonists look like. You can earn the outfits and hairstyles by killing certain bosses, and some of them you can simply buy off of a vendor, scattered across the map. I'm sure there's many more mechanics and gameplay features I can talk to you about, but I don't want this video to be too long, and I've already covered the most important part, so I guess we can skip to the summary. Clair Obscur has brought back my love for single-player games once more. The game does everything right. Excellent story, excellent soundtrack, excellent gameplay, excellent graphics, and excellent pricing. The last time such thing happened, it was Baldur's Gate 3. Ever since that game got released, I haven't given any other product a maximum score. Today, this thing changes. I'm giving this beautiful French pearl a maximum 10 out of 10 score. A studio that consists of about 30 talented people, a young composer in about my age that was able to create a masterpiece people play on YouTube to this day, and will continue to do so in many years to come. A perfectly developed product with an efficient team that gave it an affordable price. I believe it's a completely fair score given the circumstances. Dear Sandful Interactive, I applaud you. I sincerely hope you will continue to release good games like this, with no political bullshit that's recently been happening in the major AAA titles. Chapeau bas. So, that would be everything I have for you today. I bid you good day, and farewell for now.